So I very much I hate the word normie, but I got your attention now, so I think it'll be for something, okay? And I want to disclaimer this that by saying I far be it for me to give sex tips. Okay? I've had successes and failures, but I am nowhere near a sexologist. It's just this is an inspiration, and either it resonates or it doesn't resonate, right? So, um, I think we can all sort of agree that sex, money, and power are pretty much the triage of at least the patriarchal side of the world. Um, Women, maybe not as much, have sex, money, and power on their mind, although women like money too. Perhaps we shall say that the women like value too. But sex is very important because it's not going away, at least not yet, and it's on everyone's mind, at least until you settle or get tired, right? So pretty much everybody up until their 30s is in some way, shape, or form powered by the aspect of libido that is like purely sexual, right? Because not all libido is sexual. You can make your libido into this or that. And there's a proverb that says that you make love or you have sex the way you live. If you live erratically, moment to moment, with minute desires that you follow, then this is how you will have sex, right? If you live always in the aim of getting things, always, or be it even survival mode, then you also will have sex like you're in survival mode, right? Like you're always aiming to procreate rather than have pleasure or be generous, right? Be generous towards the counterparty. Um, and I think it's a very good barometer. You really do find yourself having sex the way you've lived up until the moment. But what I would like to have this inspiration be about is all the sex has become taken up by the new age and by the spirituality and pseudo spirituality and whatnot, and there's a lot of talk of manifestation, and I will probably talk about manifestation because it's one of those pretty misunderstood things as well. But sex has crept into the manifestation game, and it has crept into also the spiritual game. And specifically the orgasm, right? So we have Wilhelm Reich, who sort of, I don't know if he invented, I think he was one of the first ones to construct orgone generators, orgone being synonymous, according to sources, with prana, chi, mana, ether, right? And so Wilhelm Reich built the first orgone generators, and he um, said also that orgone is orgasm energy, right? So from treating people in his orgone generators, he also really wanted people to come together sexually in a healthy way. And um, he said that it was through this sexual union that the proper release could happen. It was the most accessible type of release to people, right? Because sports, exercise, diet will only get you so far, um, at least according to some. Um, and Wilhelm Reich said this about sex, and he said that specifically the orgasm was where it was at. And recently I've mused a lot on sex specifically, particularly because I'm always relating to my own libido, my own mortido, which is the death energy, right? Um, Fear of death and whatnot. But I'm always relating to my libido in some way, and I've also, worked through the porn categories, and I've worked through all of that, which is very interesting. And I maintain one of the most uh, what will we call this? It's problematic. I think Sadhguru put it better than I ever could. He said, in the end, the problem with porn is not you're losing your essence or you're losing your semen or life force, da da da. That's nowhere near as important as um, the objectification part of it. Because if you, as a man, end up seeing a woman only for her body, then that transfers onto all of life. And I think a lot of men don't intuit this. I was lucky to sort of happen upon this, and it was such an epiphany that was felt to my core to understand that if you objectify women, ultimately what you objectify is life itself. And if you objectify life, you pretty much kill it. So your relationship to life will be death. It sounds dramatic, but it has been true in my experience. And it's not easy to come back from it. I remember a shroom trip we did with the pals back in the day. And at the end of the shroom trip, we were all coming down, and I got this sketch happening for me, and I was trying to relay the sketch for them, and the sketch was the devil being sort of dressed like one of those Stasi agents, right? That you had a pre-fall Soviet hat, coat, and the devil was there, but he was sort of distraught. He was tired of his job and not very inspired to devil on. What the devil was doing, he was listening in on people. He had a bug on people, and he was listening in. And on the other end, what he was hearing was only porn, just people's moanings, right? So he was like hearing these moanings, and he wasn't even interested anymore. He was just like, yeah, moanings, moanings, moanings. And I remember telling this sketch to my pals, and everybody was just pissed, and I was pissing myself laughing because I think we understood like the futility of life there, of how futile life can be if we make it this way. Anyway, back to orgasm. From porn, back to orgasm, right? So I know I can't know anything, right? We can't know anything for a fact. Not really. I know people say facts are more important than emotions, but actually, if you really come down to it, there are no facts. I am sorry. At least I don't feel there are. Anyway, um, the orgasm, right? I from conversation, especially back in the day, I'm not having these conversations anymore about sex, and I didn't that much either back in the day when I was in my 20s. But you heard stuff, you talked stuff. Sometimes you even heard people have sex on the other side of the wall, right? And from all of this, plus movies, which are not very truthful, right? A reflection of the game of life, but nevertheless, from movies, from talk about it, it started to become a strong suspicion for me that a lot of men, they don't have sex, right? They actually just masturbate while they are with a woman. Usually, I would surmise that this is a woman who chooses her partners based on certain, deficiencies in fatherhood and whatnot. It's usually you see people pair up, right? It's never a coincidence that people pair up. But men tended to masturbate with women instead of actually having, a sort of togetherness, right? And then especially during the orgasm, what would happen, right? And I've done this to myself, of course. I should fucking add that, fucking. I should add that to begin with, right? That the masturbation that takes place when you're with someone oftentimes results in the orgasm being uh, constituted mainly by desire. So you orgasm in a state of desire or in a state of like very bestial or animalistic drive, right? It's not a state of union that you necessarily orgasm in. And this is where all the sex magic and da 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 and the manifestation could be interesting at this point, right? Because they say that the orgasm is the moment of manifestation. So if you can manifest, you see a house and a Porsche and you orgasm, and that is the truth. Soon enough for you that will, and maybe I'm not here to talk about that. I don't want to diss them. I think people are all trying as best as they can, and they are being prototypes for their own lives, and they are sometimes being childish, but everybody's trying, right, to have a good life, to just ground themselves and what have you. But uh, I sort of agree with them that the orgasm is such a powerful energy that it both sort of explodes how you are in a day-to-day life, and it also um, has you continue down that path by concentration of a very strong energy. So I started reflecting on this a lot. I was very inspired by these reflections that if we as men keep orgasming in a state of desire or rancor or bestiality, then it's like almost putting a curse of desire, of a curse of dissatisfaction on yourself, right? Which is a bad curse to have. The Tao Te Ching says that the curse of dissatisfaction is the worst curse to have. And I started reflecting on what other states of orgasm could be had, right? And of course, the preferred state would be union or getting lost or what have you, right? I feel like this point to make the disclaimer that maybe it's not in truth, right? Maybe it's a parenthesis I would like to be true for me. But on the level of this level of mind, I don't think that sex should be talked about that much, actually. I mean, of course, we want to steer the sexual ship back to health, right? Oftentimes, conversation maybe do. But the more I feel we talk about sex, the less we're actually having real sex, and the more we are masturbating, even with partners. So, I started reflecting on what other states you could orgasm in, and of course, union came, and getting lost, generosity, right? As men, if we are with women, we want to preferably maybe be in a state of generosity, right? We are the plus, women are the minus. Generosity is a good idea. It's just it feels better too. It's just that you have to work through the contraction of fear of loss first, right? So after you have worked through that, then suddenly you find yourself in generosity, and how much nicer it is to feel generous, not just try to be generous, because a lot of people try to be generous, but really they're doing this in resentment, etc., etc. But yeah, so this is what I wanted to bring up. I got myself pretty ramped up here because it's such an interesting topic. But orgasm and sex are the top 10 like things everybody's always on about, at least in coming up in life. So maybe this will be an inspiration to some, because it sure was an inspiration to me to understand sex from this point of view. It's so yeah. Um, and I also think it gives a lot of color to the discussion bros are having about masturbation and semen retention, which is just, oh my god, I'm sorry, dudes, but I am to the brink about this. If you say to me semen retention, I'm sorry, I will stop listening probably, because it's not an either or, and very few things in life are actually either or. If we think about it, things are about balance, right? So if you are alone and you feel you have to masturbate, or you feel the desire to explore this, right? Explore why are you masturbating, how are you masturbating, and how is your like day-to-day thinking and life and emotion influencing your orgasm, right? Because if you keep orgasming in desire, in bestiality, in what have you, then maybe that is more the issue than the masturbation or the loss of semen itself. I don't know. Like I said, far be it for me to expound on any of this, but you have to admit, it is inspiring.